My name's Olivia Epley, and hold on, let me get up here a little bit. Yeah, so my name's Olivia Epley, and I have a story to tell. It's really important to me, and that I've been trying to write for a long time, but haven't quite known how to cover in 2,000-word articles on my website. I run a blog. I run it primarily to help people with their own mental illness, but also secondarily to help me with mine. And today I'm going to be telling you the story of the time, the 6 roughly months that I dated an actual diagnosed sociopath. This story's been a long time coming. I've written a lot about it on my blog, but I just wanted to put it all into one cohesive video, mainly for myself, but also in case somebody else gets something out of it. I've actually gotten a lot, probably dozens of messages from people who've experienced similar relationships, not necessarily sociopathic relationships, but generally abusive, emotionally relationships. Before I start, I want to lay some ground rules to how I went into this relationship. So, I was a junior in high school. I had OCD, I had PTSD from a previous relationship, I had depression, anxiety, and I was developing an eating disorder. So I had a lot going on, and if you read my blog, I'll link it down below. I'm really well recovered from pretty much everything. PTSD is the only thing that's really getting me, and that's why I'm focusing on it today. So I'm midway through my junior year in high school when this is happening. I go to a high school that is meant for children with emotional issues, so like depression, anxiety, in theory. But a lot of the symptoms of those emotional issues, like depression and anxiety, are similar to more nefarious conditions, which I like to say sociopathy is pretty nefarious. I'm going to try not to be that judgmental of the condition. I know he can't help it. I know people with the condition can't help it, but I am at this point pretty critical of people with sociopathy, or antisocial personality, so I'm just going to go ahead and not try to be too complimentary of it. I'm sorry. So I'm at this school, and when he comes, he's not at the school yet. It's about January. I think it's late January. I'm in a relationship with a guy who, unbeknownst to me, has a girlfriend who doesn't go to the school. I found out about that later. It was a whole thing, but it was just kind of shitty. Like, it wasn't, like, traumatic. It was just like, wow, you had a girlfriend the whole time you were hooking up. That's terrible. You know, that kind of thing. So it's late January. There's lots of new people coming into the school all the time. So, like, there's a new person every week or two, because it's like people rotate in and out of the school. It's meant as a stepping stone for schools that are more normal. Like, you have a depressive episode, you go to this school, and then you go back to your old school and do better, mainly. So it's late January. Sorry, I'm saying that a lot. And he comes to the school for a visit. I see him out the door of my physics class, and everyone knows I'm hooking up with this one guy. Let's call him Jimmy. And I go back into my class, and I'm like, guys, there's this really cute guy out there touring with his parents, and he looks like Harry Potter. And one of my friends goes, I thought you were with Jimmy. And I said, I guess you're right, but he's so cute, and he looks like Harry Potter, guys. So that was my first introduction to him. I thought he was so good looking, and he seemed kind of shy and, like, unsure of himself. So I wanted to, like, introduce myself and show him around the school. I was the student council president, so I was really careful about trying to introduce everybody to the school. If the staff wanted somebody to be introduced, I was the person they would bring that person to. I was a cornerstone of the student body, basically, not to toot my own horn too much. So he was touring that day. I don't think I talked to him that day, but he came the next day also for a shadow day, and so I talked to him. The first things, let's call him Aaron, by the way. Let's call him Aaron. No. Let's call him Tom. So his name's Tom. um, and it's called Split Tom, by the way. So Tom comes in for Shadow Day, and the very first things that he wants you to know about him are that he has a very serious sleep disorder that causes him to stay up for up to a week or two, and then crash for multiple days of sleep. He wants you to know that he just came back from a wilderness program in Vermont, and that he was abused there, supposedly, that he had tried to escape and had been chased by dogs and shot at, but that his parents, when he found civilization and called them, didn't let him come home. So these are the basic set of information about this guy. He's so cute, he's very charismatic, he's brilliant. So he's telling me all this, and I have zero reason to doubt it beyond, like, 2 weeks? You know, like there's that initial thought, and that's a common theme, which is, like, there's that initial doubt, you know? And then, but I immediately dropped it because, like, something you'll come to find out about me throughout the story is that I really, really want to believe people, and I really want to be there for people. So I wanted to believe that he was going through this immense amount of suffering, and that he was still this amazing, charismatic person. So we talk all throughout the day that he came and toured, which actually I think was more early February, because we were getting ready for Valentine's Day. And so he and I talk, we discover, like, this huge connection through Harry Potter. We're both, like, we're both pretty smart. And so I message him after the school day, and I was like, hey, I really hope you come to this school. I hope I did everything I could to make you comfortable. If you need anything, let me know. And he was like, oh my god, thank you so much, you're so sweet. So about a week or two later, he starts at the school, because apparently he liked it, his parents liked it. I'm still dealing with this boy, Jimmy. He had just revealed to me that he had a girlfriend, or I just found out that he had a girlfriend, he didn't deny it. So he was, like, in his hidey hole. It was a whole thing. That's not really the purpose of the story, but I just wanted to let you know that that's in the background, because it comes in later. Tom, comes to school. He starts at my school. He immediately, all we're doing is talking the entire time. He wouldn't talk to anybody else. He'd follow me around. I'd follow him around. All we would do is talk, talk, talk. I come out of a yoga class one day. I'm holding a book that my therapist had given me about PTSD, because I'd been in an abusive relationship before, and I actually already had a form of PTSD before meeting Tom. So Tom immediately zeroes in on it. He's like, what's that? And I was like, it's a book that my therapist gave me about PTSD. It's called The Body Keeps the Score, by the way, if you ever want to read it. It's really good. Anyways, he's like, trauma? Like, he immediately latched onto the fact that I had endured trauma. So I didn't, like, exactly tell him during that day what had happened, but we texted after school, and for, like, hours late into the night, I told him everything that had happened in the old relationship. Like, every little thing. And he was so overwhelmingly sweet. He was like, Olivia, you are the bravest person I've ever known. You are the kindest and sweetest. You put up with a monster for selfless reasons. Just incredible language about how strong and amazing I was. And I never heard that from anybody before. It was such strong, emotional, just romantic language about a trauma that I'd endured, and I was immediately hooked. So we talk constantly for the next few weeks. Like, literally, we would stay up until 5 a.m. FaceTiming, and then we'd go to school at 6 a.m. and spend the whole day together. I would cut classes. I would go to classes that weren't mine, that were his, so I could be in them, so we could talk. One more thing that he sets the groundwork with is that he's asexual. He says that he's asexual because he was sexually assaulted as a child when he was in a mental hospital. Now, I'd been in this mental hospital, and I was immediately like, oh my god, I'm so sorry that happened to you, because I as a victim of sexual assault, I was never gonna doubt him for that. And until, the very last day, I didn't doubt that that had happened. That was like the last thing that went, because I'm very disinclined from disbelieving sexual assault survivors. But he says that he was assaulted out in the open by a gang of girls who were older than him, and that the hospital didn't do anything, so he asked his parents to take him out, and they did. Way more on that later. So I found out about that, and at this point I'm hooked. But I know that he's asexual, so I'm like, he's just going to be my best friend, because we're immediately best friends. There's nothing was separating us for all hours of the day. We start going out to do things together outside of school. I meet his family. He's something you need to know about him is that he's extremely, extremely rich. 0.001% of wealth. His father's a very, very powerful lawyer. That comes into the story later. And he seems very cool. There's a little story that he and I got into where he has a game with his father where he gives him a big word. The big word that I picked was Beethovenian, like as in Beethoven. And his father would try to work in that word to his attorney stuff, to his speeches or whatever. So that's, the kind of, he was representing a very famous rapper who, if I said his name, I'd probably get in trouble. So he's representing a very famous rapper. He's one of the top lawyers in the world. Very, very important guy, very intimidating. I thought it was great. I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I thought it was awesome. So I start going over to his house. I meet his family, and one day I go to Starbucks with him, a local Starbucks, and we start talking about how we feel about each other. And I told him that I loved him. And I said, Tom, I love you, but I don't love you romantically necessarily. I just feel so strongly about you. And he said, it's okay, I love you too, and I think I love you romantically. So we kissed. And from then on, we were in a relationship. It was pretty sudden. This was like a month after we met. And we told his parents that we were in a romantic relationship. Everyone at school found out. But around the same time, I was starting to get really severely bullied by the kids at my school. And Tom was there for all of it. He was my best friend, my confidant. He would tell me that I was a saint, I was the best person he'd ever met, I was the best person in existence. We would, I could rise above the bullies because I would rise into an Elysium with him, in immortality with him when we died, or that we wouldn't die, and just like this really, really intense stuff. That I was his soulmate, I started going over to his house almost every day. I would spend the night almost every night. I would spend multiple nights. I, went out on to dinners with his family. I became very close with his mother, who I started to see as, sorry, just a second. Who I started to see as a mother figure to me. And things really, really intensified very fast. Now, this whole time, he, I think, the first time I think I really suspected something was when he was talking about his sleep disorder. Now, he told me very early on two main facts that I believed without question. The first was that he had a very bad sleep disorder, but that it had been misdiagnosed as Munchausen's. Now, if you guys don't know what Munchausen's is, it's a disorder that's characterized by making yourself sick in order, pretending that you have a very serious illness and inducing symptoms upon yourself in order to fit that illness so that other people will sympathize with you. So So he's like, yeah, I have this serious sleep disorder. No one's ever believed me. People have called it Munchausen's my whole life, and you believe me. Thank God for you. I was like, alright, I guess I believe you. But I wanted very badly for his sleep disorder to be fixed, because in the world of mental health, you know, you don't want to necessarily fix things. I guess that's the wrong word. You don't want to fix things. You want to improve your conditions very badly. But he said that every single sleep medicine on the market gave him bad side effects. Every single one. When I first met him, he was wearing a bracelet that was supposed to be monitoring his heart rate and his other sleep symptoms. I don't know exactly what they were. He told me heart rate. So that his doctor, a fancy doctor from New York supposedly, could confirm that he had a sleep disorder. So for the month that he was wearing this bracelet, this was shortly after I met him, he and I would FaceTime into 5 a.m. My entire sleep schedule was ruined. All I wanted to do was talk with him, and when he could talk was at night. So we would stay up playing games, talking, laughing, just sharing our total selves with each other until 5 a.m. Once he took off the bracelet, because it was scheduled to be for a month, that stopped. That was a big hint. The second big hint about his sleep disorder that I immediately picked up on was we were FaceTiming one night, it was like 11, and I had been trying to convince him for a few nights to take a new sleep medication that his doctor wanted him to try. At this point, I don't really know what the doctors believe in his life. He keeps a very tight lip about what his doctors think his diagnosis is. You know, in the past he's had this, in the past people told him that. So he finally says, fine, I'll try it for you. So he shows me the medication, and he shows it about here, and then he drops the phone. And then when he picks the phone back up, he says he's taken it. And I said, Tom, did you really take that medication? And he blew up at me. He hung up the phone. 10 seconds later, he picked back up the call and started screaming. I took it, why don't you believe me? No one ever believes me. He showed me his pockets, like he put his phone down to his pockets and emptied them. See, they're not in there. He showed his surroundings. Do you need me to show you everything? I can't show you everything, Olivia. You don't believe me. So I was like, oh my god, no, I'm so sorry, Tom. I believe you. That was the first time he snapped at me really bad, and I was shocked by the difference between his normally sweet, very romantic personality and what he gave me when I doubted him. The second thing he said, and I remember the day that I found this out very clearly, I was riding in his car with his mom and him. We were going to get a tux, or a suit, custom made, because that's the kind of wealth they have. We're going to get a custom suit from some fancy store, I forget, some big store in the mall near where he lives. So, sorry, this really gets to me. Okay, so he tells me that when he was in the hospital as a child, the one he was supposedly sexually assaulted in, the real reason why he had asked his parents to take him out was because the doctor there had diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder. And his mother was sitting there, and she goes, yeah, I can't believe he would have diagnosed my son with antisocial. He didn't realize that my son has friends, that my son loves animals. So apparently what had happened, and they tell this story to me while I'm sitting in the car, I'm like, holy fuck. They were like, yeah, so the doctor diagnosed Tom with antisocial. Tom didn't agree with that, we didn't agree with that, so we took him from the hospital, and we wrote the doctor and said, what are we supposed to do with this diagnosis? We have no idea what to do. Please help us. And the doctor didn't respond. I then find out that this doctor was my psychiatrist. Now I trust this psychiatrist, or at the time I trusted the psychiatrist very deeply, so when I heard this, something went off in my head. and this is a recurring theme. Again, things go off in my head, and I push them down because that's too crazy to be true. He can't be that sick. Um, but this was my doctor who I'd been with for many years, and I didn't want to think that he was just making up a diagnosis to ruin a kid's life, or that he and the hospital would ignore an allegation of sexual assault, a credible allegation of sexual assault. I didn't want to think that was happening. I confronted my doctor. He claims to not have remembered any of it. That's probably because he can't legally say anything, but he also might not remember it. I'm not going to go into any more about that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but yeah, it's a bit sticky. So we are at the point in the relationship where my eating disorder got really bad. And as my eating disorder was getting quite bad, this is probably 2 months in the relationship, maybe 3. As it was getting quite bad, I started to notice that he was saying that he had similar symptoms of eating disorders. He lost a lot of weight in his wilderness program, and he was talking a lot about how the PTSD of the wilderness program, where they abused him, and I totally ate that up too. I was like, oh my god, those terrible wilderness people, those terrible trained doctors who have, wonderful educations and know exactly what they're doing. How dare they abuse you? I was, drinking the Kool-Aid. So, he starts to exhibit signs of an eating disorder, and his parents seem quite confused. And I don't really know why. I go to his mother and I'm like, look, I think he could really use a nutritionist. She's like, I don't really think he needs one. And I was baffled. I was like, how could you possibly, every time I'm with him, he refuses to eat. How could you possibly not get him a doctor for this? My theory now is that he was eating perfectly well outside of being with me, and that she knew that, and she was like, I don't really know what to do here. But again, that's a theory, and I want to be careful to delineate theories from facts. Everything I've said up until now is a fact. That's a theory. So a few more things that I knew about him that seemed fishy. He said that he was missing some school. Here's the reason he went to Wilderness, apparently. He went in October of that year, then, he's there for 3 months, it's January. He says the reason he went was because he was missing a lot of school and his parents had him gooned, which is when you have people hired through a service to basically take your child from their bed. And that he couldn't imagine why his parents would do this. It was such a betrayal. I don't really know the circumstances that led up to his being sent to Wilderness, but he has an older sister, just graduated from a very prestigious school, seems very good, like a good person. She's very much like me. We have all the same disorders. She was, but his sister was, she was sent through the system kind of like I was. Like, she was sent through the system like I was. Like, she was sent to mental hospital after mental hospital and programs and that kind of thing, so she would, get better, and these were sympathetic, gentle programs with doctors and nice facilities because they had all the money in the world to afford that. But they sent him by kidnapping to a wilderness program. The explanation he gave me for that was that they were just cruel, abusive people. So I started to see his parents as abusive. I heard some other stories, like I heard of a story about how he had punched through a wall. I heard a story about how he'd thrown water at his mother. I heard a story about how he held a knife supposedly to his throat, although his sister was apparently scarred by that, so I question the exact timeline of that. But that's a theory. So the eating disorder is getting bad, bullying is getting bad. And at this point, I'm totally wrapped around his, like, every part of me is wrapped around the story that Tom is this poor, abused kid who I love so much, and crucially, I'm the only one who's ever believed him in all these things. Like, his family and his sisters and his aunts and uncles and his doctors have always said he had Munchausen's or said he was a sociopath, and I'm the only one who's never, vilified him. And there's this beautiful boy in front of me who's so smart and so funny, Um, and so alike. So like me. Sorry. Um, and I love him so much. I loved him so much, I mean to say. At the time I loved him. And I was never gonna say, you're a liar, even if there was that little voice in my head. So, the bullying is getting bad. I start to rely on him more and more. He tells me he thinks my parents are abusive. He says they're emotionally neglectful and abusive. They're not. And I'm told that he is the one person who is there for me. He is always going to be there for me. I need nobody else. So I feel myself starting to doubt his stories more and more. The more sleepovers I have, the more I talk with his friends, the more he tells me all these crazy stories about crashing for 62 hours or something and staying awake for 3 weeks. Crazy stuff that I accepted at face value, but like at the back of my mind I was like, that's insane. He told me that in middle school he was bullied really badly for saying all this. And I was like, oh, other people our age don't believe you. I didn't say that, but I was like, okay. Maybe there's something to that. But I never like fully latched onto an idea that he wasn't telling me the truth. Because what was I gonna do? Like disbelieve the love of my life? No, I was never gonna do that. I have serious issues with abandoning people. I was never gonna say, you know what, you seem kind of sketchy. I'm gonna clear out. That's something I'm working on in therapy, but he knew that about me and exploited it because I started to struggle a lot. Now, there are a lot of theories about why I was struggling. Bullying is the main theory. Eating disorder is secondary to other struggles, but it exacerbated a lot of my issues. But there is a big theory now in those months with Tom was because I was with Tom and because I couldn't trust my own intuition. I would say to him, I was like, were you really asleep during this hour? Like, he would say he'd been asleep for like 40 hours. But his Facebook would have been active during that time. And he would have gained a follower, started following somebody on Twitter during that time. And I would notice, and I'd be like, that must be a glitch. And he'd tell me it was a glitch. I was like, he would never lie to me about something so stupid. But as time went on, and I kept being privy to these weird, like, I was asleep for 30 hours, but he was active on Facebook 5 times, or I'm up for 2 weeks and I'm having a panic attack because I've been awake for 2 weeks, don't talk to me. Like, it wasn't the fact that those were, like, anything, like, it was the main issue with those was that they were stupid little lies, and I didn't know why he was telling them. And in hindsight, you're all saying, oh my god, Olivia, it's so obvious he's fucking lying to you. But it didn't make any sense, because I didn't know, I couldn't wrap my head around the idea that he had a serious disorder, or a couple of serious disorders, that made him lie for seemingly no reason, just because he could, just because got him a little bit ahead. I couldn't understand that. So there were several moments that we had that were like arguments, basically, where I would say, Tom, was this really true? Tom, I don't feel good about this. Tom, this makes me feel uneasy. And when I would say that, he would say, now you're being like everybody else. You're being like the abusive wilderness people. You're being like my sister, who was a big, abuser. You're being like my mom, which was the ultimate insult. Or his dad, but I wasn't really compared to his dad a lot. His dad's a whole other story. That I will get in trouble if I tell. So I'm falling deeper into this whirlpool of self-hatred, and I'm really doing quite poorly. So one night, I'm going over to his house all the time. We're sleeping over. We're not sexually active, but we're pretty physical with each other, like very physical, touchy, making out, being on top of each other. We spent the night with each other once. We didn't have sex or anything, but we spent the night together. And all that's happening, and I'm starting to spiral. So there's one night in particular when I was out at the movies, and he says, "I'm sorry, Olivia, I'm having a panic attack, I gotta go." And I was having a very bad night too. I have actual PTSD, and he told me that he was the one person who was always going to be there for me. So I'm having a bad night with PTSD. There was a movie I was at that was including a sexual assault scene. And so I message him. I say, "Tom, where are you?" No answer. But he you know how on iMessage you can heart messages? He hearted it. So like, "Tom, what's going on? Where are you?" He responds, and I say, "Tom, it feels like you're not there when I need you. Why aren't you responding at this point?" Because he told me earlier in the night he was going to be available the whole night. 12-ish p.m. comes around, and he says, "Olivia, I was having a panic attack," which is apparently what happens to him when he doesn't sleep for 2 weeks. Again, not real, and I knew it, so I was sick and tired of being lied to. And I said, "Tom, we need to FaceTime right now to figure this out because I don't believe you. And I need to talk this out." And he said, "I'm fading into a panic attack, Olivia. I can barely type." I said, What do you mean you're fading into a panic attack and can barely type? You're typing fine. What's happening?" He's like, "I'm fading. I can barely see." I'm like, "Just FaceTime me. What's going on?" And so then he starts telling a story about how, he goes, "My parents are screaming at me." I'm like, "What? Your parents are screaming at you? What's happening?" And he goes, "They're pulling at me. They're getting me away from the phone." And I'm freaked out. The love of my life is saying his parents are hitting and pulling and screaming at him. I still don't know what is going on. I had just tried to raise an issue about, believing him, and all of a sudden there's this massive bombardment of parental abuse, supposedly. So I was like, "Holy crap, call me now, call me now. I'm there for you. What's going on?" He vanishes. I call and call and call and text. "I'm here. What's happening? Are you okay? I'm gonna call your parents. Like, what? Are you being hit still? Like, what's happening?" So I fall asleep at about 3. We were supposed to have a picnic the next day. He cancels. But he cancels through his mother. And so his mother texts me, or she texts my mother, and she says, "I don't think Tom wants to come." And I was like, "What do you mean Tom doesn't want to come? What's going on? Are you still hitting him?" Like, I'm really confused. That was, for a while, that was the last I heard from him. This was the beginning of the summer. Prom had just happened. We had a great time at prom. He was pretending to be, well, I had a great time. He was pretending to have not slept for a week. And that was the last I heard from him for a long time. For like a month. No, that wasn't the last time. Yeah. And that was one of the last times I heard from him. At that point, he started telling me that his parents were banning me from the house, and he wouldn't say why. He said it was probably because he needed to get more homework done, but at this point I saw his house as like my house too, so I was really confused. I was like, "What's going on with your parents?" He's like, "They're limiting my technology, they're saying all these terrible abusive things to me, they're hurting me every day." And I was like, "Oh my god, what am I supposed to do? The love of my life is being abused by his parents, and I'm helpless." So he goes off to a camp. School ends. I literally did his schoolwork for him. I could have stopped him from graduating like that. I did some schoolwork for him. I didn't feel like being that vindictive, but I helped him through the end of school. Let's say it like that. School ends. I'm having a huge problem with bullying. I'm being bullied for being with him. I'm being bullied for, um, that was actually a pretty primary bullying feature, was the fact that I was with him, the fact that other people liked him and I was with him, the fact that I was ignoring other people in favor of him. I sacrificed a lot to be with him. It was not a popular decision at my school. So school ends, and he's supposed to go off to a somewhat prestigious, one of those like pay $6,000 and you can spend a day at Northwestern kind of programs. So he goes off, and the entire time he's telling me like, my parents are saying horrible things to me. It's just like my mother when she was more of an alcoholic. Like, they're hitting me. They're taking my phone. They're threatening me in all kinds of ways, and I'm freaked the fuck out. I am not eating or sleeping. And he gets there, and he says, I'm having a terrible time. I want to be home with you. And I said, I want you to be home with me too. Do you want me to come visit you? Do you want to come home? Like, what do you need? He's like, I'm terrified of my parents. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't want to go home, but I want to be with you. I don't know what to do. So then, he tells me that he's going home. We're in pretty constant communication. I'm telling him about some stuff that's going on with me. He's telling me he's having a terrible time, that he's scared of his parents. And then the last time I heard from him, for probably a month or so after that, was the night that he was due to go home early. He made it 2 days because his parents were, I don't fucking know exactly what the story was, but his parents were being terrible, and he's a pretty social awkward guy anyways. Like, he's very charismatic, but like, he tires easily. You know how people have like social anxiety and stuff and they tire? That was supposedly him. I mean, that's the sociopathy symptom too, but whatever. I wasn't in that mode. So he goes home, and the night that he was due to go home, the last time I heard from him, when he vanishes, my first thought is that his parents have had him kidnapped again. Because I was so wrapped up in this world that, like, all I could think was his parents are abusing him so badly, and I'm the only one who's ever believed him. I'm the only one who makes him feel happy or good, which is something he would tell me all the time. So much. I was the only person who made him feel any kind of good. Besides, like, a couple of his friends. But he told me they didn't understand him. And that they could never understand him, and I was the only one who could possibly ever understand him. So he's gone, and I'm sitting here with this immense, huge responsibility. And I don't know why he's not responding. My image in my head is that he's been kidnapped. I texted his mother, I'm like, because I have her phone number, we would talk. I'm like, what's going on? Where is he? What are you doing to him, basically? And she said, I can't tell you right now. You're going to have to wait. And I said, I can't wait. Let him go. Stop hurting him. I can help. She says, I can't tell you any more than I've told you. You just have to wait. She wouldn't stop saying that. Eventually she stops communicating because I, keep trying to advocate for him. I'm like, please, listen to him, listen to what he wants, do the right thing, and she just stops, responding. She texts my mother. She says, this needs to end. He's not good for Olivia. Tom's not good for Olivia. That's what she said. My mom was like, because I'm pretty close with my mom. I shared everything with her. She is also hearing all this stuff about abuse, so she's like, are you sure? Let's call her Ellen. Or the mom, let's call her Ellen. Ellen, I'm not so sure about that. Olivia says this. What's really going on? And Ellen would just stonewall. I was so consumed by thinking he was being abused, I knew he had a vacation house in the Hamptons, because that's how wealthy they are, and I had friends that lived in Hamptons. So I went to stay with them, and I went out about in the in the town looking for him. I didn't sleep or eat for multiple days. I had this terrible eating disorder. I'm texting him, I'm like, I'm coming to save you. I'll do anything to save you. I am looking through the town for him. His mother finds out that I'm looking and is like, she needs to go home. She doesn't know what's going on. She has, like, it's not what she thinks. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, you're abusing the love of my life. You're lying because he says you always lie. So I go home, and eventually he gets back in contact with me. And he says that all of my fears about what had been happening were true. His technology was gone. His parents were abusing him. He hasn't slept at all the entire month. He's gone a month without sleeping, you guys. I'm like, holy shit. And I go to my mom, I'm like, Mommy, I told you. Because my mom, at this point, my parents were skeptical. They were like, is he telling me the truth, Olivia? I was like, 100%. There's no way he's lying to me. But in the back of my head, I was like, maybe he's lying to me. So, but like not consciously, because the moment it would emerge into my conscious, I would start like hating myself very vigorously because I wasn't to disbelieve him, because I was the only one who ever believed him. I couldn't be this terrible disbeliever. I couldn't abandon him. So he gets back in contact with me for like a day. He confirms all my worst fears. He says, Olivia, my parents have been abusing me. I want more than anything to see you. Get a burner phone, drop it off by my house. I didn't actually end up dropping it off, but I went and got the burner phone. I set it all up, and I was waiting for confirmation from him to drop off the phone. Because he had apparently like stolen his phone back from somewhere to text me. I didn't really know what it was, what was going on. He was apparently like actually in the Hamptons, but I hadn't found him when I went looking. And at this point, I'm so wrapped up, and I was like, I'll do anything. I'll get you this burner phone. We'll get through this, Tom. We'll get through this together. Your parents can't win. They're just abusive people. Then he vanishes again, and I completely collapsed. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I could not go on anymore. My whole body was dead. I wasn't eating or sleeping. I was crying all day, every day about how inadequate I was because I couldn't save him. That summer was hell. That summer is why I have PTSD from this incident. Because I thought that someone I loved was being terribly abused, and that I couldn't do anything about it, even though I was the only one who could do something about it. And the helplessness, and the hopelessness, and the feelings of inadequacy, and the insistence on not disbelieving him were so overwhelming, I felt like I couldn't keep living. So I enter into the hospital. Sorry. I go into the hospital. He gets in contact with me the day before I go to the hospital, and he says, I'll write you through the hospital. We'll get through this. This is the same hospital where he said that he was sexually assaulted, so he goes, I'm not going to visit, I'm not going to write you, but I will message you. I will email you. So we get to emailing for a few weeks. He says he has to vanish. He gives me one last call. He says sweet things like, you're the love of my life, we'll go off to college together, spend the rest of our lives together, we'll adopt dogs, we'll live on a farm together. Sorry, this really gets to me. And then he vanished again. 2 days later, my parents come to pick me up from the hospital for a visit. My father gets in the car with me. I'm like, Justin's gone. He's been gone for 2 days. Do you know anything about this? And my father shows me a text that Ellen, the mother, had screenshotted from Tom. The text says, I don't want to get on my phone and read it. I actually deleted all the texts after going through them all, but the gist of it was, I've been lying to her this entire time. You guys were never abusing me, but she thinks that you were. My sleep is not nearly as bad as it was supposed to. Like, I only crashed for up to 15 hours, and I'm like, I've slept for 20 hours before. It's not a crash. And I just don't know how to tell her that I've been lying. So his mother takes it upon herself to screenshot that and send it to my parents. That's it. I read it, I start screaming because I've just fucked up everything for this kid. This poor, abused, misdiagnosed kid. And I vomit into the bushes of the hospital. I get home. I still have my phone because we hadn't thought about it. And I text him. I said, the jig's up. That's exactly what I said. I remember it verbatim. The jig is up. He starts trying to sort of weave around it. He goes, I'm so sorry, Olivia. I still feel very strongly about you, but I just want to be friends. I was asexual the entire time. Like, my parents aren't abusive. My parents, I forget, he went back and forth on whether or not they're abusive. I think at that point he was still saying that they were, but he was just spinning a bunch of stuff, and I read his paragraphs, and I was like, enough, Tom. I don't know what the truth is. I'm never gonna know what the truth is. And I'm done with you. So then he turns vicious. I don't think he was expecting me to be strong. In the past, I'd been very weak with him. I'd immediately believe whatever he said. If he disagreed with me, I would immediately align myself with what he said for fear of upsetting him. So when I said it's enough, I don't believe you, he freaked out. He told me that I was lying about my life, that I was the liar, and that I was fooling all my doctors I've ever had, fooling the, I've never been accused of so much as, like, more than 5 lies in my entire life. I'm a scrupulously truthful person. It hurts me sometimes, but it's good in this situation, because I could say, I know I'm not lying about my life to other people. That's you. I didn't know, he didn't have any evidence to back it up, he was just throwing things out. He goes, you're way sicker than you let on, your parents told my parents, and, you're just a liar. And I said, Tom, I don't know what you're referring to, but I know you're spinning. I wish you well. And then my father saw me texting him, saw me sobbing, took my phone, and that was that until I sent him an email. When I got back to the hospital, I sent him an email that said, I understand that you're sick, I understand all these things, but I'm still here for you. I'll be here as a friend to you. I sent a couple of those. I was like, I know that you're sick, I know that you're a sociopath, I know that you have Munchausen's, I know that it's a combination of those things, and I know that you've been lying to me, but I'll be here for you anyways, because I was so wrapped up in it. I was like, I'm still here for you, whatever it takes, I would never abandon you for those things. I didn't understand. Now, his father's a very famous lawyer. So when I sent those couple of emails that, heavily implied and said that he had antisocial personality, because it immediately added up. In my head, my parents, my doctors were like, Olivia, he's a sociopath. You've just encountered a sociopath. And I couldn't deny that, but what I could do is be there for the sociopath, because I didn't want to be alone, or whatever. So, I said that to him. I sent him a couple of emails along those lines. I get an email back from a lawyer friend of his father's saying, you are accusing my son of being a sociopath. If you say that to anybody, or if you contact him again, we will, this is a cease and desist order. If you ever say that to anybody or contact him again, there will be legal consequences or something. I obviously didn't say anything to him after that. But I knew when that happened that he must have been spinning this story insanely to his parents. At this point, here's what I still don't know. I still don't know if they know fully that he was telling me that they were abusing him. I don't know if they know that he was saying that he was sexually assaulted. He has a new girlfriend now, so that he's not asexual. He's telling her all the same things. He has another victim, basically. So that story was bogus. He's off to college now. He's going to school in a city he hates. At a school that was one of his last choices in his list. And he ruined a year of my life. I was weaved into a story I never wanted to be in, or knew that I was in. I served a purpose to him of providing sympathy, unquestioning sympathy. And when I was no longer desirable, when I was struggling too much, I was tossed aside. Because sociopaths don't care about the feelings of others. At no point was it thought by him that I deserve the truth. There are other symptoms of sociopathy that he exhibits. He exhibits almost all of them, as he does with Munchausen's disorder. He has been diagnosed with both of those things in the past and has told me about those diagnoses. So there is no way I could be mistaken about that. I've heard that straight from his parents. I trust the doctor who diagnosed him because he was my doctor. And I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know how I'm going to maintain serious relationships. I'm struggling with that now. Believing anything anyone says about anything emotional is next to impossible. I'm a very romantic person. I care so much about people. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Now, I'm recovered from my eating disorder. The hospital did that for me. I'm no longer suicidal. I'm very rarely depressed. And I have chronic anxiety, but that's manageable. The last blip in my recovery is PTSD. And that's because of Tom. Tom is out there now. Tom is in your life and the lives of so many people. Tom is manipulative. Tom lies. Tom will tell you the most beautiful phrases and sentences about yourself that you've ever heard in your life. And many like Tom will do that. And there will be many victims after me. And it's a remarkable story that I really needed to tell. Thank you for listening to it. Let me know if you found it as crazy as I did. Let me know if you thought I was acting unreasonably. I think I was. I think I should have seen it earlier and not followed him where he led me. But I also can't blame myself because he got a near perfect score on the SAT. He's very, very, very smart. He knew all of my weak points. He knew what to exploit. Over time, I lost my friends. I lost my parents. I lost weight. I lost all my self-care and love to him. And this is the warning story about that. Stay safe.